Thank you for joining us today. My name is Evelise Burgos from the Ombudsman Office in Atlantic Cape County Superior Court. Meet the Court Live is a summer weekly series of webinars via Zoom to inform the public about a variety of court programs, services, and more. The presentation today will provide general information and feature a Q&A at the end. You may submit general non-case specific questions at any point via the Q&A function in your Zoom app, and our speakers will address them at the end as long as time permits. This is a Zoom webinar, so our cameras and microphones will not be usable. Please also note that this is a product of Atlantic and Cape May County Superior Court of New Jersey, and some information may be unique to this county. Be sure to check your own county for any information specific to them. Today's presentation will cover human resources, recruitment, and employment, and will be presented by Kiara Chandler and Liz Marie Roman Rodriguez. We hope you enjoyed today's session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Evie, for the introduction. Again, my name is Kiara Chandler, and I am the Assistant HR Division Manager in Human Resources. So let's go ahead and jump into our presentation for today. So who are we? Who is Human Resources? We are a division that works as a strategic partner with management in leading and developing a workforce and workplace that exemplifies the judiciary's core values. And those values are integrity, independence, fairness, and quality service. We serve not only our employees, but also applicants, future applicants like yourself, management, judges, and the community. Next slide, please. Our mission in Human Resources is to attract, develop, and retain a high-quality workforce. Applicants are chosen for their unique talents and the value that they can add to our mission. HR promotes the judiciary as a rewarding place to work where people can make a difference. We also develop and support training and education initiatives that will enhance employee and organizational performance. And we work in partnership with labor and management for effective communication, innovation, efficiency, and productivity to ensure a work environment that fosters professional relationship, career opportunities, and employer of choice. Next slide, please. So here are our functions as Human Resources. We support many of the usual HR functions that you'd expect, such as payroll, benefits, leaves, recruitment, performance management, corrective action, and employee support. And we also support employee recognition and engagement, training, community outreach, among other things. For the first portion of our presentation today, we're going to focus on our recruitment process. Next slide, please. So how do you apply? Well, first, let's go over our recruitment types. There are two types of recruitment when applying for a position with the judiciary. First, we have a competitive, which is categorized as a classified recruitment. The hiring from this recruitment comes from a civil service exam list, and we'll go into more details on the next slide in regards to the competitive recruitment. Our second type of recruitment is non-competitive, which is an unclassified recruitment. And these applicants are sourced from applying to a job announcement that can be found on our New Jersey court's website. Under our non-competitive recruitment, you also should see that we have classified listed. The reason why we have classified listed under our non-competitive recruitment is that we do have one title in particular, which is our probation officer position, that even though you can apply for this position directly through our New Jersey court's website, there are some aspects of this particular position and recruitment on the back end side that HR needs to go through civil service. So let's dive into what the requirements are in order to apply for a competitive recruitment. Next slide, please. So the reason why we call this type of recruitment a competitive recruitment is that applicants are required to apply for certain judiciary positions through the Civil Service Commission website. Based on the number of applicants and your ranking, you are then placed on a list that the judiciary will pull from as vacancies become available. So, in order to apply for a competitive position for the state of New Jersey, you must be at least 18 years of age. You have to be a New Jersey resident, meet the education requirements that's stated on the job announcement, and your work or volunteer experience must meet the requirements of the posting prior to the job announcement closing date. You also have to complete an online application through the civil service website and pay a small processing fee. Please note that civil service, again, only accepts online application. And then lastly, you must successfully pass a civil service exam. So after you submit your online application on the civil service website, you're probably wondering what happens next. Well, let's talk about that. Next slide, please. So once your application is submitted, along with all of your supporting documents like resume, school transcripts, to civil service, it is reviewed to determine if you meet the basic qualifications. And so if you do not receive a notification of ineligibility, your application has been accepted via civil service. And so your next notification from civil service will be either a notice of rank and score, and this is usually when the application is evaluated, they're solely looking at your education and your experience. Or you could also receive a supplemental application. And this may be a requirement from civil service. They may need more information from you to determine your actual ranking. Or you could receive a notice to appear for a civil service examination. All of these will place you on a list of eligibility that the judiciary will pull from and may require you as the applicant to submit a letter of interest to the hiring location so that, when we begin our hiring process, we know that the applicant is still interested in being considered for an opportunity with the judiciary. If you do not meet all the requirements posted in the job announcement for civil service, you will receive a notification of ineligibility in approximately 12 to 14 weeks from the closing date. And so if you notice on your screen, there is a particular section that is circled because in this section, it will show why your application was rejected. Or it could also show if you were eligible to take a civil service exam, you took the exam, but you did not pass the exam. So it would have that information in the ineligibility notification as well. So now that you have a little bit of background of how the competitive recruitment works, let's take a look at some of the positions that you can apply for. Next slide, please. So listed here are a few judiciary job announcements that you will find posted on the civil service website. We have judiciary clerk and judiciary clerk bilingual, which means with the bilingual variant, which means you can speak and write and interpret Spanish and English. Our judiciary clerks are considered our support staff, and they perform a variety of clerical duties such as data entry, customer facing. With the investigator position, you can also be an investigator or investigator bilingual, which again means that you can interpret and speak Spanish and English. All right. Employees at the investigator level conduct interviews and perform investigatory work, including initial case workup. The judiciary clerk and investigator exam ranking lists are held until vacancies become available and we are ready to begin the interviewing process. Just to make note, to obtain the bilingual variant, you will need to take the Bilingual Communicative Ability Test, also known as the BICAT, and you will be scheduled to take that examination once you are on board with us. If you apply for a bilingual position, you must pass the BICAT to remain in your position. And so just to make note, kind of to remove the pressure of taking, an additional examination on top of the civil service exam that you've taken, you can always apply for the regular title without the bilingual variant. And then if you find yourself interfacing with Spanish-speaking clients often, you can actually reach out to HR and voluntarily, make a request to be scheduled for the BICAT. So that is an option. And so by now, I hope you have somewhat of a better, clear understanding of the competitive recruitment process. And so now I want to move forward and talk about the non-competitive recruitment. Next slide, please. So the same rules apply for the non-competitive recruitment. Again, you must meet the minimum age requirement, be a New Jersey resident, meet the education and experience requirements, all by the closing date of the job announcement. The main difference between a competitive and non-competitive position is that the non-competitive positions do not require applicants to take a civil service exam, and you can apply directly through the New Jersey court's website. So as you can see on the screen here, I do have exams highlighted in red because sometimes the position that you apply for may require an exam to be administered locally in-house. So if you're applying for a position that has a specific amount of words per minute for typing in order to qualify for that position, you will be brought in for a typing test. Same thing if the position has a requirement of Excel knowledge, you would be brought in for an Excel test and be administered based upon your ranking and score. So there is a chance, we wanted to throw that out there, that there is a chance that there may be some exams administered locally, depending on the position in which you have applied for. So those are the requirements for the non-competitive recruitment, but let's take a look at how you can apply for these non-competitive recruitments. All right, next slide, please. So all of our in-house job announcements can be found on our website using the link you see on the screen or the QR code. So if you have your phone and you're interested in taking a look, you can take a picture of the QR code and it'll bring up our link and it'll take you directly to the jobs that are posted on our website. The judiciary requires all applicants to complete the application process fully and as instructed. All applicants must complete the work, experience, and education sections and attach any required documents. Applicants must describe all relevant work experience in detail, beginning with your current or most recent job. Include your military service and the rank. Also include any internships and job-related volunteer work if applicable. Use a separate section to describe each position. Applicants who indicate see resume or enter their initials to acknowledge that they have skipped the work experience and education sections will not be considered unless you do not possess any education history or work experience. Only applicants that follow the application instruction and submit completed applications will be considered. If you have not fully completed the application or followed the application instructions, return to your application and update any incomplete or missing information before hitting that submit button. An email address is needed to apply for job opportunities with the New Jersey courts. We will use email to contact you through the hiring process and keep you updated on the status of your application. So if you do not have a current email address, you may sign up for a free one at Hotmail, Yahoo, Gmail, or any other site that offers a free email address. Next slide, please. So these are some of the position titles within the judiciary that you can apply directly for on our New Jersey court's website. The positions that you see here are considered professional positions, which fall into the categories of administrative, case management, finance, and supervisory. On our next slide, you will see a sample of the job announcement. Next slide, please. So while looking through our postings, you may find a job that interests you. When you click on the job, you will see that the posting lists the location of the job type, whether if it's full-time or part-time, the division that's hiring, a job description, as well as the salary. There will never be any surprises as it pertains to a position within the judiciary because everything that you need to know is listed in the job posting. And so after reviewing the posting and you're thinking, you know what, I'd be perfect for this position, click the apply button in the top right corner of the posting. And once you click apply, you will come to a sign-in page for the online application. Next slide, please. So on this particular page, you will be able to log into your NeoGov account, or if it's your first time applying to a position with us in our online application system, you will need to create an account and select a username and password. After your account has been established, you can import your resume from LinkedIn, upload it from a Word file, or you can manually enter your personal information. This application will be saved and may be used to apply for future openings. It is important to remember that you list all relevant education and work experience and thoroughly answer any supplemental questions in order to receive the appropriate credit. Applications will not be considered if incomplete on the closing date. All application materials must be submitted by 11:59 Eastern Standard Time on the posted closing dates. And so for our final slide, we're going to go through the process of what happens after you submit your application through our online portal. Next slide, please. So once the posting closes, all completed applications are reviewed by our human resources staff. Yes, the judiciary has real-life individuals looking at every detail in your application to determine if you are qualified or non-qualified for the position that you have applied for. We take the time to fairly review our applicants. If HR has deemed any applicants as non-qualified, those non-qualified applicants are submitted to our EEO officer, Equal Employment Officer, for review to ensure there were no errors in the non-qualified pool. Once we receive notification from our EEO officer, that all the non-qualified reviews is complete, the qualified applicants are sent to the hiring panel to review and select candidates to interview based on their education and experience that best match the position in which they applied for. HR will then receive the selected list of candidates from the hiring panel, and we will then send that list to EEO to review and ensure we have a diverse list of applicants to interview. When HR receives the final okay from EEO, we will then begin contacting the selected candidates to schedule them for an interview. Final selections are made based on the rankings from the interview and the number of positions in the hiring division that are available and open. The selected candidates, the list that we receive, will go back to EEO for final review, approval, and then a contingent offer is made. All applicants must pass a background check to be finalized with a start date. Once you have passed the background check, HR will begin onboarding you with all the new hire paperwork, and then it's officially welcome to the judiciary. Congratulations. So as you can see, to ensure fairness in our selection and interviewing process, there are many steps that the judiciary takes to ensure that our recruitment process upholds our core values of integrity, quality service, and fairness. And so, to help you prepare for your next job position and opportunity with the judiciary, Liz Marie, our business training coordinator, is going to give you some valuable resume writing and interviewing tips to help kickstart your journey with us. Liz Marie, you can take it away.
Thank you, Kiara. Hello, everyone. I'm Liz Marie Roman Rodriguez, Atlantic Cape May Training Coordinator, and I will be sharing information regarding resume and behavioral interviews. So, once you have identified and reviewed a job posting and think you're ready to take on a new role with the judiciary, take a moment to look at your resume before applying. If you're not sure what a resume looks like or what should it contain, in a few minutes we will discuss a brief overview of this document, resume basics, and helpful tips. So, what is a resume? A resume is a brief written account of personal, educational, and professional qualifications and experience prepared by an applicant for a job. It's an organized written presentation of relevant information and accomplishments targeted towards specific work objective. A resume is a selling and marketing tool that outlines your skills and experiences so an employer can see at a glance how you can contribute to the employer's workplace. It's the first impression that a prospective employer has of you, making it not only the initial, but also the most crucial step you take in your job search. In other words, the purpose is to land that interview. An effective resume will convince the employer that you have the skills and qualifications necessary to succeed in the available position. Get this. The judiciary gets approximately 100 to 400 qualified resumes per posting, depending on the position. That's why it's so critical for your resume to stand out. And we're going to go through some tips to help your resume just do that. Next slide, please. So let's talk some overall resume basics before getting into each section. People ask, how many pages should my resume have? Resume should be 1 to 2 pages in length. You absolutely can go to 2 pages, but you want to make sure that the information included is relevant to the job posting. Another point is to use an easy-to-read font. Font sizes should be from 12 to 14 points. Use bullet points to make resumes more readable. Your bullet point sentences should only be 1 to 1.5 lines long, and they shouldn't be your job responsibilities. They have to be that, but just not entirely all that. You'll want to include accomplishments as well. Eliminate all typos and grammatical errors. Nothing ruins your chances for an interview like a resume with typos and or grammatical errors. Many of our job postings highlight the importance of attention to detail. And if you didn't pay much attention to detail in your resume, it can be very telling for a panel. A helpful tip is to proofread your resume several times and then have someone else proofread it. Also, be selective about what to include in your resume. We'll talk about work history later, but you cannot include your entire work history on your resume. You want to make sure to only include resume information that directly pertains to the job posting or that you know are relevant to the job. For example, if you're interested in a judiciary clerk position and you've talked to a current judiciary clerk in the division which you're interested in, and then you find that you have a skill or experience that directly relates to the position but wasn't included in the job posting, you should absolutely include it. Also, if you want to include systems, programs, or other names, spell out terms instead of using abbreviations and acronyms. If it's division specific or from a previous employer, you should spell out those terms. Remember, not everyone knows every name and what every acronym is used for, as these may mean different things in different organizations. Keep your resume neat and well organized and use consistent formatting. You would want to use what is called the white space appropriately on your resume. It makes the reader's eye go to the information directly and quickly. Also, when it comes to spacing, put days flush against the right margin, like this example here on the slide. Another thing you need to pay attention is to avoid italic text. Fancy text and fancy formatting makes it difficult to read. By keeping your text simple and clear, the panelists will be able to read all of the information without difficulty. Please keep in mind that resumes are submitted electronically, but some panelists may choose to print them out. So be sure to format your resume to 8.5 by 11 inches side paper. When writing details on your resume, limit inclusions of personal information. Please do not mention age, marital status, ethnicity, and also avoid hobbies. The only exception is volunteer work that pertains to the position directly. Another point is to edit out personal pronouns. These are used in your cover letter, but not the resume. And make sure the resume is in third person. For example, provided orientation and assistance to the general public. The only exception to this rule is if you include an objective. Your objective may be written in first person under the heading section. Another section this can be included is in your cover letter. Actually, it's a good practice to include a cover letter. NeoGov doesn't require this, but sometimes your cover letter can set you apart from other applicants. It's in this document where it's a good opportunity to let the employer know about information that's not necessarily incorporated in your resume. Something that I share with people when reviewing resumes is that you have to rewrite your resume for each job application. Your resume should be tailored to each job you apply for, highlighting the accomplishments that most directly relate to the requirements of the position. Also, be selective. Don't list every accomplishment, volunteer assignment, and skill you've ever achieved. A resume should contain very selective content. It is not meant to be a comprehensive review of everything you've ever accomplished. Only include and highlight information relevant to the job you are applying for. Next slide, please. So there are three common resume formats. There's chronological, functional, and combination. We will focus on the chronological format for this session. The resume heading contains identifying information. It should appear at the top of the first page of the resume and should be centered on the page. On this slide, here's an example. Again, this is a basic resume format, and you can use to choose an alternate format for your heading. You will always want to make sure that your contact information, such as name, address, phone number, and personal email are included. If your resume has 2 pages, put your name and page 2 at the top of the second page. Under the heading section, you may include an objective or work summary. The purpose of the objective is to indicate what you can offer the prospective employer. Remember, an objective is optional. In fact, many experts now advise that you skip the objective and begin with your resume with a summary instead, but the choice is up to you. In this area, work experience should be listed in reverse chronological order with emphasis on your most recent position. Job accomplishments are described in some detail. Start by listing the name of your current company or organization on the left side of the resume and put it in bold. Then, list the city and state in which the organization is located. On the far right side of the resume, list the dates in which you worked for the company or organization. This entire line should be in bold. Now, underneath the organization's name, list your current job title. This should not be in bold. If you've held several positions within the same organization, list the number of years in each position beside the title. The organization's name should not be listed more than once. On the next slide, you will see an example of this. Next slide, please. So over here in this slide, you will see under the experience section, the full name. You have to put the full name of the place or organization you're working at. Next to it, you will see the location where it is. And on the far right side, you will see the month and the year until the time that you have been performing those duties. Right on the second line, you will see the title of the position. And then under that, on bullet points, you will see the description of the duties that you have been performing. If you have attained or you have performed another job title within the same organization, look at the example right here on the slide. Under that, you will see the title of the position, the other one you have been working in, and then you will see on the bullet points the description of the duties you have been performing. And then on the far right side, the month and the years. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to talk about verbs, which are important to include in your resume since they show hiring panels and managers what actions have you taken in previous jobs. Here's an example of some action words at the beginning of accomplishment statements. Create and maintain records, assign, review, and revise, coordinate staff priorities, maintain various databases. You're being hired to do something, so show what you've done in the past by preceding your skills and experiences with action verbs. Finding the right verbs for your resume is essential to standing out above the competition and landing a job interview. To find the right verbs to make sure your resume stands out, start by taking your desired job description and highlighting the 6 to 10 verbs that best reflect what you offer. Depending on the job description and your experience, you may find as few as 3 or as many as 20. The point is to identify the actions employers value and match them to your qualifications. The idea is to tailor your resume to the position. Now, if you have completed a project in your currently assigned role, that should be highlighted on your resume, and that should be in your past tense. For example, coordinated the statewide rollout of the New Jersey Learning Management System, or the JLMS as we call it over here. That is a project that has taken place in the past, and the action verb can reflect past tense. Next slide, please. So now we're going to discuss the education, this education section for our resume. Education is generally placed at the end of the resume. Summarize educational background in reverse chronological order. Start with the highest degree major, university or college, city, and state. The year of graduation is optional. You're not legally required to list graduation dates. You might want to set degrees apart so they are easily seen. Abbreviations are fine. For example, BA, MS, MBA, PhD, or the degree may be spelled out. Bachelor of Arts, Master of Science, Doctors of Philosophy, etc. If you did not complete your degree, feel free to include number of years or semesters completed. We have seen in the judiciary that some positions only require a number of semesters or hours completed, so do not be shy to add that to your resume. Advanced training, certificates, licenses, or educational achievements relevant to the position may also be included, as well as applicable computer skills. Please also know that school names should be treated the same as company names, full name and location. Next slide, please. So now we're going to discuss resume do's and don'ts. So what to do? Watch your verb tense. If the accomplishment is completed, then use past tense. If the task is still underway or ongoing, use present tense. For example, conducted seminars on enhancing workplace professionalism. That would be past tense. Conduct seminars on enhancing workplace professionalism. Present tense. Use bold caps for your name on page 1 and the following sections: headings, companies, degrees, and college or university names. You should be spelling out numbers through 10. For numbers 11 and upward, you can use numerical digits unless at the beginning of a sentence. Then you would spell out the number. Use months and years or years only when citing dates on a resume. Exact dates are not necessary. An example could this be May 4th, 2010. This can be listed as May 2010. Okay, now let's discuss the don't section. Please do not put the word resume at the top of the document. Do not put a photo on your resume. Do not include salary information, nor give reasons for leaving a job. Also, do not include a personal section. Do not give names of supervisors. Do not give the full address of current or past employers. And do not list references on the resume. I know, this sounds weird. It's just some people like to include the verbiage available as required. Now we're going to discuss on the next slide, please. We're going to discuss tips, some helpful tips that we like to share with you. Look for keywords in the job posting or description. The best place to start when preparing to write a resume is to carefully read the job postings that interest you. As you apply for different jobs, you should study each job description for keywords that show what the employer is looking for in an ideal candidate. Include those keywords in your resume where relevant. For example, if you're applying for a customer service position or a job serving others, an employer may use keywords like customer service or positive attitude. If you have these skills or experience, include those terms in your resume. Also, make it simple and easy to read and brief. Employers have minimal time to review resumes, so readability is key. This includes selecting a professional clean font, like for example, New Times New Romans, Arial, or even Calibri. Try to include only work experience, achievements, education, and skills most relevant to employers. You can find the most relevant attributes by closely reading the job posting. This doesn't mean you leave out positions or employers It just simply means that you dedicate more of your resume space to the most relevant experience. Also, use active language. Your resume should be written using active language without ostentatious words. This means using power words such as achieved, earned, completed, or accomplished. If your resume is too long or seems hard to read, you might consider making sentences shorter or ideas more concise. Choose appropriate formatting. Margins should be between 0.75 to 1 inch on all sides with single spaces between lines. Use an easy-to-read fonts. Remember that they should be 12, 14 points. Another point is to proofread and edit. Before sending your resume, be sure to have at least one person proofread it for spelling and grammar errors. Tailor your general resume for each position. Before submitting an application, ask yourself, have I made it as easy as possible for this employer to see that I am qualified? This often requires making minor changes for each unique position. Your resume is the first step to getting the job. Make sure it grabs the attention of the employer so you can move on to the next step, which is their interview. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to discuss the behavioral type of interview. In the judiciary, we use the STAR method, which is the situation, task, actions, and results. The Society of Human Resources Management defines behavioral interviewing as a type of interviewing focused on a candidate's past experiences by asking to provide specific examples of how they have demonstrated certain behaviors, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Answers to behavioral interview questions should provide verifiable, concrete evidence as to how a candidate has dealt with issues in the past. KSAs are knowledge, skills, and abilities that a person must possess in order to perform the duties of their position and are listed on each job position's job description. But let's go into depth with these. Knowledge. Knowledge is the subject, topics, and items of information that an employee should know at the time they're hired or moved into the job. These are applied directly to the performance or work functions. An example, knowledge of federal laws and regulations. Skills are technical or manual proficiencies, which are usually learned or acquired through training. An example of this is B. Skill in editing documents for correct grammar, collecting and analyzing complex data, or systems expertise. Abilities is the present capacity to apply several knowledge and skills simultaneously in order to complete a task or perform an observable behavior. Abilities may also relate to the personal and social attributes, which tends to be innate or acquired without formal instructions. These are enduring talents that can help a person do a job. Examples are process information logically, or ability to exercise sound judgment in making critical decisions. When looking into the job posting description of the position you're interested in, find the competencies. These are the KSAs required to perform this job. This will help you have an idea of what the panel is looking for in a candidate in terms of competencies and skills, and will be part of the interview questions. Okay, great. Can I go into the interview now? Hold on. By looking at each part of the STAR method, we can find the situation, which is where you lay down the context or circumstances. The task, where you identify the duty and responsibility you took on to achieve your goal. The action, this is where you describe what you did to complete the task or reach your goal. And the results. This is where you highlight the positive outcome that your actions generated, followed by any key takeaways learned or quantifiable results from this experience. An example of this type of question can be, mention a time where you encountered an upset customer and how did you approach the situation? Next slide, please. So on this slide, you will see this question dissected, basically. Over here, you will see the situation or context. This is where you're going to explain. When I worked as a cashier at so-and-so, then you're going to mention the task or the problem. I had a customer that wasn't happy because the price of the item didn't come up on the register. Then you'll mention the action. I looked at the tag price and confirmed that it was less. After getting approval from my manager, I adjusted the price. And then you would mention the result. The customer was obviously happy that they received the right price. If you can't think of a work-related example to match a competency, think about a situation in your overall experience. This can be in your school, community, or any volunteer experience that you can discuss. You may also answer hypothetically and demonstrate what you have learned. Next slide, please. Remember, practice is key. Identify the core competencies of the position. Generally, you will see them in the first sentence of the job description. Identifying them from the job posting is important. Make a list of questions and do your research. While the results may not be specific questions the panel will ask you, getting used to the format of how those questions can look will be very helpful. Also, do a mock-up interview with a peer, family, and friends. These are like a rehearsal for your great debut. Practice your answers truthfully and be yourself. Please don't memorize your answers, rather write down your experiences related to the competencies required for the job posting, and use your professional backpack. You have gained throughout your professional career experience, wealth of knowledge, skills, abilities, tools, and resources. Just like a backpack that you carry always with you, make use of it and apply these to your answers. Next slide, please. So here we're going to share with you a contingent plan, like how what to do for an interview, before, during, and after. So before, what should you do? Research the organization. Understanding key information about the company you're interviewing with can help you go into the interview with confidence. Review the posting, their website, and social media sites. Practice answers to common interview questions. Again, apply what you have learned about the judiciary and the job post to prepare for certain questions using the STAR method. Prepare a list of references. Get well rest and organize the night before. Prepare any documents or identification you would need. If you want to collect some snacks there, do it too. Make a list or even listen to positive feel-good music. Now, during the interview, remember to breathe. Make a great first impression. Be neatly groomed and wear something that is clean, ironed, and comfortable. You might want to plan to arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. Why? Because you might not know where the building is, the traffic you will encounter. Basically, plan for the unexpected and treat everyone you encounter with respect. Respond to questions truthfully and be positive about how you have overcome challenges. Please do not speak negatively about prior employers. Keep your answers concise and focused. Be authentic, positive, and remember to smile. Remember to say thank you at the end of the interview and feel free to make any questions you might have related to the position and the organization. After the interview, have any documentation and notes in a safe place where you can access them easily. This will help in case you will need them later. Also, revise your email, telephone periodically for any messages. Just don't obsess over that. Be positive again. Even if you don't get selected, this experience helps you to know what to expect on further opportunities with the judiciary. So be on the lookout for further job postings that there could be available. And that's all the time I have. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Okay, at this time, if anyone has questions, you can now enter them in the chat. It looks like we have a question here. It says, is it okay if we do not have experience?
So that's particularly if you're applying for a position. So most of the job postings will pretty much list out the experience that you need in order to qualify for the position. So you want to pay close attention to what is stated in the job description before you actually apply for the position. Because if you do not have the experience that matches the job posting, then you'll more than likely be deemed non-qualified.
Give it another minute or so if you have any other questions. Oh, we do have another one. It says, usually how many weeks does it take to hear back after applying for a job?
So it really it varies, right? And so each process of the application, as you saw, goes through a phase. And so we try to move as quickly as possible after the applications are submitted. And it really depends upon how many applications are received. As Liz Marie stated, we can receive anywhere between 100 and 400. So it takes time to actually go through reviewing all of those applications, and we're going through the, qualifying and non-qualifying and getting the okay from the EEO to move forward with selection. So I would say at minimum, I would say at the minimum, it may take 4 weeks. That's, again, depending upon how many applications we receive and getting those interviews and things scheduled.
Okay. We do have one more question here. It says, is it okay to say during the interview, can we come back to the question if you're not sure how to answer it?
This pertains to behavioral type of interview questions. So if you don't feel comfortable with a question or you're not sure how to answer, you can refer to the panel and say, hey, can we come back to this question? However, you should be able to demonstrate your knowledge, skills, and abilities throughout the interview. But yeah, it all depends on the panel. Thank you.
Another question. If I don't have a degree, but I do have experience, can I still apply?
So some of the positions do supplement the years of experience for the degree. So there is a chance, that you would be qualified if the application or if the job announcement says, you can substitute a certain amount of years of experience for a degree.
As of now, that looks like all the questions. If anybody else has any last minute questions, you can now answer them. If not, we'll move on. Okay, doesn't look like any more coming in. Oh. Will there be training available? One question came up. I guess it's pertaining to if they're interviewing training available.
So if you're an employee here, you can meet with Liz Marie, our business training coordinator, to schedule mock interviews and resume reviews, things like that. But if you are called in for an interview by Human Resources, we don't provide any particular training.
Okay, so we're going to move on. Okay, so thank you for watching today's presentation, and thank you to our subject matter experts and our Spanish interpreter. We would love to receive feedback on this program. Using the QR code on the screen, please take a moment to answer a brief survey about today's program. You'll receive a link via email after this session ends, as well as flyers for the remaining topic webinars. If you're looking for more information, please contact the Ombudsman office of the email shown above. At this time, it looks like today's session is now ended, and everyone have a nice weekend.